Hello and welcome to another episode of the Brain Food Show. We're continuing Christmas. Is this, I don't know, I feel like we've been doing Christmas for a while, but it's kind of like we kind of soft started into Christmas with some tangentially related stuff. Then we did one that was really Christmas, and now we have two very Christmassy episodes. So,
and these next two will be the last in Christmas, and then we'll move on to something else.
I look forward to it. Like, I like Christmas fine, but I also like regular stuff.
Yeah. Well, this one, I think this one particularly is just kind of, well, actually both the next two, they're kind of funny. There's funny elements in them. So
I know.
They're kind of bizarre Christmas, I guess.
Dear listeners, I'm probably not going to be able to keep my together today. We've made a video of one of these. It was unbelievably hilarious. And I had to do like 8 or 9 retakes at one point because it was just so funny and I couldn't not laugh. And then there's another one, which we haven't made as a video yet, but I was up I was up this morning reading over the notes. It's like 6:15 in the morning. I'm sitting at my kitchen table with a cup of coffee and I'm reading about the burning of the goat and I just can't help myself. It's very funny.
Hilarious.
I don't know what I find quite so amusing about drunk people's antics, but it's just, there's something amazing about it. Just like drunk people getting up to stupid stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Where are we starting today? I know we've got something that's almost equally daft as the quick facts before we kick off the main topic today. And what is the main topic today? Is this Christmas traditions?
Yeah, just various Christmas traditions. I mean, starting with kind of a common one in the why do we kiss under the mistletoe? And then moving on to sort of less, I mean, I think starting to be more well-known in the Western world, the Krampus, the Christmas demon, talk about that, where that came from. And then
are we doing the goat one today?
Yeah, the giant straw goat, which is just bizarre and really funny. And then
and is it next week we're doing the I know because we've made a video about it. Is that the one we're doing West Point, the riots at West Point?
Yeah, and then also an equally hilarious riot that actually has nothing to do with Christmas, but just sort of related, and I thought was funny, in Oxford.
Oh, I know this one, yeah. But Oxford back in the day, right? This is the beer riot thing.
Yeah.
Oh, listen, if you're not subscribed to this podcast, I hate saying like subscribe to this podcast because it's really good, because then it sounds like I'm so excellent. But subscribe to this podcast just because the riots at West Point one, it's unbelievably funny and a good story. Even if you hate me and Davin, you will enjoy this story. So subscribe.
Well, if you like that. Drunken antics that include also some historic figures.
Yes. Oh, the president. The president?
Yeah.
The future.
Yes.
Oh, dude, this is so good. I'm very excited. Start with that quick fact, though. Is this the poo stick?
Yeah. Well, before that one, we'll get to the what do you think? Kaganer?
I looked it up.
Kaganer
is Kaganer.
Yeah. Kaganer.
And I hope you like my Spanish pronunciation of that R there.
Yeah.
Kaganer.
Yeah. So in sort of Spain, Portugal, Italy regions, they have this, like in a lot of places, they have a version of the nativity scene, sort of just the village of Bethlehem, and so you got Mary, Joseph, and little baby Jesus there, little animals and stuff. But what they have also have added is the caganer, or the crapper, the crapper, which is just this guy, just a random dude who's squatting with his pants down and pooping, and usually like a little bit of poop underneath his butt there, on the ground. What? And this it's not actually known how this tradition got started, but it actually goes all the way back to at least the 17th century. And then, that's just like a thing, and it's been quite popular ever since.
I am, one of my close friends here in Prague, who I do the Visual Politic channel with, actually, he's Spanish.
Yeah.
So I'm very much going to bring up the caganer next time. And he's one of these guys who we'll be having a chat about it. He'll be like, yeah, dude, of course, the caganer. You don't have the caganer? I thought everyone had the caganer. The caganer is amazing. It's like, no, dude, no one else has the caganer. You didn't notice when you've gone to like any other country and looked at the nativity scene that there's not a dude taking a dump in the back?
Yeah. And it's like, you see like some of the origin stories of this. No one knows at all. And it's like, so one of them was trying to like put a positive spin. It's like he's fertilizing the ground, showing like, nutrients back into the earth. And it's like, associated with Jesus in a positive way, I guess. But then of course the others are like, no, dude, it's just a nativity scene with a guy taking a crap that you can't spin that positive. But either way, no one actually knows how it came about. But, it's been around for hundreds of years.
I love it that this is something you'd kind of expect to come up like as a modern thing. Like someone slipped in,
totally.
like, in the 1960s or whatever. And it kind of stuck around as a bit of an inside joke. Like, ha ha ha, let's laugh at our kind of silly traditions or whatever. But no, 17th century. Like, and I feel like in Spain in the 17th century, weren't they like super religious back then?
Yeah, so it's just bizarre. But this brings us to another... the Spanish, they had a weird thing with pooping apparently historically, because this one is called the Tió de Nadal, or sometimes the Caga-Tío, or the poop log. What? And this gets even more bizarre because it's not just so they make this. There's this little log, right? And they put like a little face on it, and it gets it little legs and stuff like that. And then the kids, leading up to Christmas, will take care of this log, like fake feed it, keep it nice and warm. It's tradition. You got to put a blanket on it, which you'll see this has a reason for the blanket here shortly.
Yeah.
But so you put a blanket, it keeps it nice and warm. And then come Christmas, you put part of the log, if you have a fireplace, in the fire to like torture it. And to start it burning. And then the rest of it's like hanging out the back with its blanket on. And then you also beat it. Like if you don't have a fireplace, you still do the beating. Like either way, you're beating it.
Yeah.
And you're just demanding that it poops. And then like under the blanket or whatever. And they actually sing songs and stuff. But so they want it to poop.
Yeah.
And then once it's pooped, then like a kid will lift up, and then there's like candy or little presents, like almost like stocking stuffers type of things, like little things like that. And that is the purpose of this thing. And they also, while they're beating it and stuff or burning it alive, they sing these songs. And so I've just included one song is translated. I'll let you read it.
So I assume this is like a direct, like the direct translation is, and I'm not sure how we want to treat the language. I realize I swore already once in this episode. I don't know when it's so funny you can't help, but it's log nuggets, hazelnuts, and mato cheese. If you don't it well, I'll hit you with a stick. Log. It's awesome.
And these are the kids wander around like beating this thing and singing
nuggets, hazelnuts, and mato cheese. If you don't well, I'll hit you with a stick. Oh God. This is so good. Yeah. I've also just messaged my Spanish friend on Telegram, and I asked him like, dude, the caganer, what is up with that?
Or the Tió de Nadal, like what's up with that one?
I'm going to message him that as well. Maybe we'll get a live response to this episode.
And again, no one's quite sure where this one came from exactly either, but
Amazing. It says he was last seen online 9 hours ago. So given the time difference, he went to bed rather late. So he might not be messaging me within this episode time, but we will see. This episode of The Brain Food Show, it's brought to you by Wix. Wix, they allow you to create a website for your personal brand. Maybe you've got a wedding coming up. That's a kind of personal thing that you can make a website for. Or if you've got a business, whatever else you could think of. Maybe you got a podcast like me. Maybe you need a website for that. Maybe you want to make it a .fm. We did brainfood.fm. It's pretty cool. You just plug that in to your address bar or whatever these things are called, and you will arrive on our website that's made entirely by Wix. Even on the homepage, there's that podcast thing. All of that was just made with a drag and drop bop. I put an app in there that you have on Wix, and boom, I enter a URL for the podcast, and suddenly it's all up and working. It was insanely easy. I was like, I put off getting a website for brainfood.app for the Brain Food Show at brainfood.fm for a while because I don't know anything about tech. I'm a terrible designer. I don't know how to do this. And with Wix, it was super easy. We'd worked with Wix on the YouTube channel. They were like, hey, let's make a website together for the podcast. I was like, that sounds cool, especially as you guys now support podcasts. And yeah, it's just drag and dropping my way to there. They do have, you can start from scratch if you want. Like I said, I'm a terrible designer. I've said it before on this podcast. I don't know anything about that stuff, but they have templates. And that made it really easy. They even took the colors. So you tell them what colors you want it to be, and then they apply that kind of color theme across the whole thing. So we went kind of with the black and white and red that is kind of used on Stare Found Out, and our logo here on Brain Food. Anyway, like I say, it's all drag and drop, and Wix offers unlimited pages and top-grade hosting for free. You can upgrade to one of their premium plans for as little as $5 a month, and that gives you even more. To get all of this stuff, just go to wix.com/go/brainfood and get started today. And let's get back to the show. Christmas traditions. Where are we starting?
We're going to start on a more, I think, widely known, maybe, tradition of why we kiss under the mistletoe.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did on our recent little Fact Quickie special, I actually talked a little bit about the sort of an interesting thing I'll just repeat.
Can we just talk about Fact Quickie real quick?
Yeah.
Because I sent you a message about this, but you didn't reply. And I'm not sure if this is just me and my mind, or like maybe it's just a British thing. Just a bit of background, dear listeners. If you don't know, we also have a YouTube channel. At the moment, we're working on a special series, or David is working on a special series called Fact Quickie, which is like 45-second, 60-second videos, like just a quick fact. In English, or in the UK English, quickie very much means a brief act of sexual intercourse.
Yeah,
or at least it does when I grew up.
It does here, and that was sort of like the spin off of it. It's like it's so good. It's like this little like fact that's super awesome and just tightly contained there. And then you move on with your day. You know?
All right, man. Cool. As long as you knew.
But I think you did point out. I think that. But if you make a channel like this, then you'll be known as the Quickie guy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And maybe that's not. Maybe it needs another name.
Yeah.
But no, I thought that was kind of funny.
Not great for your love life.
Yeah. I thought it was kind of funny, so I thought I don't know, and no one had used it, which is another important thing if we do ever spin it off into its own channel.
60 seconds or less.
Yeah, the comments are going to be hilarious. So it'll be like Carl Smallwood, where it's like never ending for him.
Oh man, I feel Carl will be the sort of guy. You just call it Quickie, not even Factory. Yeah. Just Quickie.
Well, and even like Carl writes all these articles, and anytime his name's sort of brought up, I often throw in jokes, like kind of making fun of it as if he wrote it, and he actually finds them amusing. But I don't know, it's just kind of funny. It's just it's always good humor.
Do you follow him on Twitter?
Yeah, he's so funny.
I guess I know you don't use Twitter very much. Do you know what he called his company?
Yeah. Yes, I don't remember the exact name, but yeah,
Big Wangers. Sorry, we are so far off topic. Do you want to tell me about some mistletoe or something?
Yeah. So anyways, I did mention briefly, I'll just briefly say it again. So from the Fact Quickie was mistletoe is actually a partial parasite, or in some cases, like there's a North American variety, it's a full parasite. So it just leaches its nutrients from the host tree or whatever. And some of them have leaves where they can get, some photosynthesis and stuff too. But so this is a parasite that we're all kissing under. But not only this, speaking of poop, the name comes from the Old English mistle, meaning dung, and tan, meaning twigs. So it's literally poop twigs.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's a parasitic poop twig, no less. And this is the romantic thing to kiss under. And so how did this actually come about?
It's not nice at all.
No, not at all. And it turns out that it's not really clear why, but it goes all the way back to the ancient Greeks, the Celts, the Babylonians, and all those. They didn't do this kissing thing, but they did do. They prized this plant very highly throughout history. It was thought to be, the ancient Greeks thought it was an aphrodisiac and aided in fertility and stuff. And the Druids actually, Pliny the Elder actually describes in great detail how the Druids they really also liked these mistletoe, and so how they would collect them and sort of the ritual around that.
Here we must mention the reverence felt for this plant by the Gauls. The Druids, for thusly are their priests named, hold nothing more sacred than the mistletoe and the tree that bears it, as long as that tree be an oak. Mistletoe is very rarely encountered, but when they do find some, they gather it in a solemn ritual. After preparing for a sacrifice and a feast under the oak, they hail the mistletoe as a cure-all and bring 2 white bulls there, whose horns have never been bound before. A priest dressed in a white robe climbs the oak, and with a golden sickle cuts the mistletoe, which is caught in a white cloak. You couldn't make this stuff up. You really couldn't. He continues, then they sacrifice the victims, begging the god who gave them the mistletoe as a gift to make it propitious. Propitious?
Proprietous, that's sure.
They believe that a potion prepared from mistletoe will make sterile animals fertile, and that the plant is an antidote for any poison. Such is the supernatural power with which peoples often invest even the most trifling things. Really, you couldn't make it up.
So that doesn't really get to the kissing part, but the more sort of direct line of how we got that was kind of started with the Norsemen. They had a bunch of legends and traditions concerning it. And so one such was that it was a plant of peace. So basically, if you were, two warring peoples or whatever, two warring groups, you'd get the leaders to come together in under mistletoe, basically. And so this was kind of like, all right, we're not going to kill each other while we're under this mistletoe, and so we can talk and sort this out or whatever. So this was just sort of a thing they did, and this eventually kind of morphed into a practice of actually hanging the mistletoe over your doorway of your home. And it was just kind of thought to bring peace and good luck at that point. And then that ultimately eventually morphed into hanging it, so every new year you would put up the mistletoe and then just kind of leave it up all year, and then the next year you would take it down and put a new one up.
Upon hearing this one for the first time, all I could think about was like enemies like passionately making out under mistletoe, like, Churchill and Hitler just like absolutely going at it.
Yeah.
So some horrible imagery right there.
Yeah, that is. So this brings us to the 18th century in Britain. Yeah. Where, what is that rule 34 or whatever?
If it's been on the internet, if someone's thought of it, it exists in porn. Is that the one?
Yeah, Churchill and Hitler. I'm not going to Google that. But
I heard this on a podcast the other day. Someone mentioned it, like something, and they were like, yeah, that would be a weird porn. And I'm like, I 100% bet that exists, because you're like, this is the world we live in.
Yeah, totally. So 18th century Britain, this is where the actual kissing tradition sort of popped up. They sort of evolved this tradition to, so they basically create these balls of mistletoe that would have lots of, little berries and stuff, and they'd hang this as a Christmas decoration, very similar to, hanging in New Year's. And then so they just kind of morphed into, at some point, someone thought, well, we'll stand under it and it'll give you luck in love, basically. So not just general luck. And so you're obliged to kiss the person, and then you take down one of the little berries, and then you're going to have, lucky in love at that point.
Compared to the sacrificing of the white bulls or whatever, this sounds fairly reasonable. It's like... Yeah,
exactly. And so each kiss, you take one berry down, and once the ball basically runs out of berries, then actually at that point, if you kiss under the mistletoe, it's supposed to be bad luck for love. And so that's something that seems to have disappeared over time, because I don't think anyone does that part anymore.
Even the mistletoe had berries.
Yeah, well, apparently. So yeah, that was kind of where it came from, and then it's just kind of grown from there, from 18th century Britain. And there's actually another tradition, though, with young girls with mistletoe in England. It was once you would take the leaf off the thing and put it under your pillow, and then the girl would, if she dreamed about like a boy or some guy or whatever.
Oh, and then you burn it, and if it crackles.
Have you actually heard of this one?
Yeah, we do this all the time.
No way. That's like still a thing?
No, we don't. We definitely don't. No.
Okay.
Never heard of this.
I was going to say, are you serious? This is still a thing?
No,
all right.
It's not. Sorry to disappoint.
Well, so, that is disappointing, actually, a little bit. So yes, they would burn it, and then if it crackled, then they would, it would be sort of unhappy marriage if they were to marry this guy they dreamed of. Or if it didn't crackle, then it would be a happy marriage if they ended up marrying them. So that's that one.
I find all this stuff so weird. Like,
it's all weird. Yeah. And like, even just kissing under the mistletoe, I mean, like, really, like, why do we hang up this plant, and then, it seems normal because we just know about it. So like, the people from Spain are probably like, yeah, totally, the guy who craps in the nativity scene.
It's like, if you don't have that, it's super bad luck. It's like,
it's not even weird at all.
It's like the superstitious natives thing. Like, we've been sacrificing the goat every year, and the volcano hasn't erupted. So if we stop sacrificing the goats, the volcano is going to erupt. And it just leads to all this craziness.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's mistletoe. Now we're going to move on to Krampus, the Christmas demon, which is, I think there was a movie. Wasn't there like a movie a couple years ago about this or something?
Yeah. Unsurprisingly, did not see it.
Like a horror movie or something. But yeah, either way, for people who haven't heard of it, so we have Santa Claus as sort of the symbol of all that's good on Christmas or whatever, sort of the. But then there's also the sort of Krampus. He's a demon, and he just, this originated around Germany, Austria, kind of the countries around the Alps regions. Basically, is where there's like variations of Krampus, the Christmas demons, that came about, and so he's just like this demon. He's got like fangs, fur, horns, the whole thing. Just picture. Just like the devil or something.
I'm looking at him right now. He's kind of terrifying.
Yeah, totally is. And Yeah, so Santa gives gifts and all that, and Krampus, naturally, the bad kids will beat them with a whip and also give them nightmares. And then if they're really bad, the tradition goes that Krampus will grab them, kidnap them, and drop them in his sack, or sometimes a wicker basket is depicted. And then he takes them to the underworld, never to be seen again, to torture them or whatever, kill them, whatever. They're gone.
Krampus the Predator.
Yeah. So this, the name, we'll start with the name, the Krampus. It comes from the old German word Krampen, meaning claw. So
sort of even the name fitting. Is scary.
Yeah. And so in Norse mythology, Krampus is the son of Hel, the goddess of the underworld. And yeah, this seems to have popped up around the 11th, the 13th century, this sort of weird thing around Germany and Austria, the Krampus legend. And it kind of had grown from there and sort of, it really started to become like a Christmas thing around like when Christianity took over. They kind of altered. Krampus was no longer this North mythological creature, but actually the devil himself. Sort of that sort of thing kind of became tradition. And then eventually it got associated with the Christian Saint Nick and his feast day on December 6th. And so Krampus's day was actually on the night before, on the 5th. And he would, by tradition at this, would just go around scaring kids who were like putting out their, what did they do, like shoes or something like that to put candy in? Or is that, I don't know.
Dude, I don't know. Like, I don't really, like, I live in Prague in the Czech Republic, but they don't have Krampus. You'd kind of think they would. It's kind of, southern Germany and Austria. It's right next door. But
yeah, it's reasonably close.
No, but as far as I know, I always wonder, like, because this could be like a thing people still do in villages and stuff, and it's just not really done so much in the city, or maybe I'm just missing out on all the Krampus action somehow.
Yeah, well, it's starting to become like a thing even in the U.S. There's a few major cities that do like Krampus festivals and stuff like that. I think it's just fun. Yeah, people just want an excuse to get together and party. Yeah. And so, it's kind of gained in popularity thanks a lot to the Brothers Grimm. And so they mention it. So, for instance, Jacob Grimm's 1835 book, Deutsche Mythology. Mm-hmm. And that we got prominent mention there. And as well as other places. And then we start to see, like, if you look there around these times, they started getting lots of postcards and things popping up with people exchanging Krampus cards. It would just say like greetings from Krampus, which is just another way to say like happy holidays in more modern times. And it kind of grew from there. And then around the Third Reich outlawed it because, of course, they didn't like the whole Krampus thing, sort of the religious side of things. So they outlawed that. So it went away. But then after World War II came back and it's kind of been growing in popularity ever since. And
I have some good news.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was distracted for just a moment.
Yeah.
My Spanish friend has replied to me and he has said when he goes to Spain this Christmas, he's going to bring me back the guy taking a dump. He's going to find one for me and bring it for me, which is awesome. And maybe also the Tió de Nadal or whatever it was called. It's going to be great. I'll put some photos up on the website.
You can like film yourself beating it or something and torturing it in the fire.
I'm going to expect gifts to come out of it.
Demanding that it poops candy that you then eat.
Stick, come on. Sorry, were we still on?
Well, that's kind of like the kind of the ridiculous. I think we mentioned it before, so I didn't put it here. But for people who haven't heard the KFC tradition of eating KFC on Christmas Eve in Japan, which just seems like in the Western just seems so weird because it's like, let's go to McDonald's for Christmas Eve. And then, that's just kind of what they do because, they got chicken.
Yeah. Wait.
Chicken mashed potatoes.
The KFC on Christmas in Japan.
Yeah.
There's the whole story behind this, though. We made a video about it, right? Where it was like
I think we mentioned it in that business episode, which was really good on Colonel Sanders. If people haven't listened to that one, go back and listen to that because the Colonel Sanders story is hilarious.
Yeah.
He's just a hilarious guy.
Out with his rivals.
Yes, I think we mentioned there was just that they noticed that, you didn't have, all the sort of traditional food that you would eat in the Western world on Christmas. They didn't really have that there in Japan. So, but the one place you could get something very similar was KFC. So it just kind of in the 1970s grew from there. And now it's super popular and just kind of fun, kind of a weird, fun thing, I think.
I love it. Honestly, any excuse to eat KFC is absolutely fine by me. That is my favorite face.
I was like, that is genius. And that's what I've been doing ever since because you don't have then dishes or anything and it's kind of, it's basically like, other people have like turkey and mashed potatoes and all that. But usually you got mostly the same stuff and don't really eat KFC very often. So it's just like a good thing.
It's glorious. Wait, but KFC's open on Christmas Day?
Christmas Eve is when I usually go, and they are definitely open on Christmas Eve, at least the one around.
Then what do you eat on Christmas Day?
Nothing. Usually like appetizers and stuff is what I go for.
Wait,
just like that.
when do
tons of
people
appetizers.
traditionally eat Christmas meals?
I think like Christmas Day, but I always like the Christmas Eve one. And then the like, Christmas Day is just kind of fun, just snacking on appetizers all day,
Sure.
like make some 7-layer dip and like, buffalo wings and random stuff like that.
So American,
Yeah.
so glorious, like those buffalo wings. Also, I don't know what 7-layer dip is, but it sounds amazing.
It is amazing, and it's delicious, and actually probably not that unhealthy with all the ingredients that are in it. Actually, a lot of them are pretty good stuff.
Awesome.
But yeah.
Gonna make up for all that barbecue sauce on those wings.
Yeah. Well, there's like, you also eat a million chips with it, so that's probably not the best. But
So you got to put that dip onto something, and that would be deep fried potatoes.
Yep.
Sorry, where were we? We're on a tangent again.
So we're going
I'm
to
hungry. I'm looking forward to Christmas.
Yeah. So that was Krampus, the Christmas demon. I just thought it's not really a funny one. It's just kind of a weird one. Like you have this demon.
Yeah.
Just goes snatching children and
This isn't a comedy podcast. Not everything has to be funny.
But this one is funny. The giant straw goat.
Oh my god! This one would get it. This one should be in the comedy section of iTunes.
I was always kind of saying in the Gävle Goat, but apparently it's the Gävle Goat.
It's definitely spelt gavel.
Yeah. Well, at least that's what one Swedish person online said. So I'll just believe maybe, I don't know. That's not always correct, but we'll go with it.
Mm-hmm.
So this, for people who don't know, is a giant straw goat is the Swedish town of Gävle, I guess. And in 1966, this is when the town first put up this goat. It's just like a really big straw goat, like just massive.
I looked it up. It's big.
Yeah, it's super massive.
Yeah.
And so
Super
this
massive,
or the
like a black hole.
Yeah. So it's also called the Yule goat, and this is just sort of a tradition that sprung up in the 1960s. But there's a second tradition that sprung up, not really pretty quickly after the first one, which is to try everything possible to burn down the Yule goat before Christmas, or at least before it's taken down, if nothing else. And this is just something that it's sort of and it is illegal to do this, by the way, and some pretty hefty fines and some things that will happen to you if you get caught. So which kind of makes it more fun. Because if they made it legal, then it would just get burned down every 2 seconds. But because it is, like a risk,
nothing is fun without the promise of like potential jail time.
Yeah, and massive fines. So it's kind of this fun, like both sides. And so the goat actually does survive sometimes. It does make it, but not often.
This thing is so freaking big. I'm looking at pictures of it on Google right now. We're not talking about burning down some little life-size goat model. This is a proper giant goat.
Yeah. And so
there's so many pictures of it on fire.
And there's actually live webcams you can go and watch it. And I actually, when I actually wrote for the article on it a bit ago, I was actually just had the webcam up, the whole time just watching. I didn't actually get to see it burn live, but there's always video footage of each year if you want to go look at it. So it turns out the Christmas time goat. So why did they do this in the first place? So it turns out the Yule goat in Sweden and various Scandinavian countries, it's been a long time. The goat has been sort of associated, this Yule goat idea, and it's not really clear how that came about at all. That sort of weird tradition, but the Gävle goat, or whatever, the Yule goat, we'll just call it that. That one we do know, 1966. So advertising consultant Stig Gävlen, he developed the idea. He thought, okay, we'll make a giant straw goat for the holiday season, and it'll be sort of an attraction, get businesses more, people shopping around it and everything like that. So we'll put it in the town center.
Have you noticed how close that guy's name is to the actual name of the goat?
I did. Yeah. Yes.
Is that a coincidence?
It is like the town. I assume so. I mean, I guess he lives in the town, so maybe he was, I don't know, the ancestors.
I mean, his name is literally Stig Yule Goat translated, just with an N on the end.
Yeah, it is kind of weird. So they erect this thing, ironically, next to the fire department, which is kind of funny. So the funding was provided by the local businessman Harry Strom, and they built this. So the first one was 43 feet tall, just to give people a kind of reference, 23 feet long, and 3 tons of straw. So 43, what is that, like 3.5 stories or something?
Yeah, dude, I need to put this into English. That's 13.5 meters.
Yeah, it's properly big. And so it stood through the month. So it was originally constructed December 1st, 1966. It was done, stands through the month. But on New Year's Eve, someone from a nearby town just decided to set fire to it, and it quickly burned to the ground. So this was the first year it was ever up. And then the following 4 years, they continued to put it up. And so this local Southern Merchants Guild kind of put it up as sort of a little attraction again. So first 2 years, nothing after that, nothing really happened to the goat. But then in 1969, some vandals once again set it aflame. And then the following year they did it again. And then the southern merchants were like, just screw it. We're not going to do this anymore, because the 1970 burning, actually, it happened just 6 hours after construction was completed. And so they were like, we're not going to do this anymore. This is stupid. People keep burning our goat down. But the Natural Science Club from a nearby school, Vasa, they decided in 1971 they would kind of make the Yule goat tradition live on. Yeah. So they constructed it. And that one actually made it through the season. Nobody burned it down. But then the next year it didn't burn down, but someone sabotaged it, and then it collapsed. So then a couple years later, it burned down once again. And 2 years after that, it actually got hit by a drunk driver and was destroyed.
Oh my God, what was he driving? Like a train?
Yeah, seriously. And then 1979, this brings us there, they actually built 2 goats. The first one was burned down before they could even finish erecting it. And the second one, they was likewise destroyed. Also, it was sabotaged in this case. And then the following year, it burned on Christmas Eve. And so this just became a thing. Like everyone was just trying to destroy this at this point. And since 1980, only 14 times has it actually managed to make it through the holiday season. And despite, so they got the fire station next door and they put like flame retardant stuff on it to try to get it to not burn, but that hasn't really worked out too much. And then more recently, they started installing webcams. Again, you can actually go look at the webcam if you Google it and just watch the current years, which is still standing at the recording of this podcast.
It's still up. Of course, it'll be there right now. We're recording in December.
Yeah, and so, it's still there so far, but sometimes it gets burned down kind of early. But so yeah, they've got webcams to try to catch arsons and stuff. And it was kind of funny though, in 2004, so some hackers actually managed to disable the webcam and instead put up a page on the feed that just encouraged people to go burn down the goat. And then,
oh man, this is so great.
So the new sort of idea in 2011 was, what if we just spray the whole thing with water and then it'll freeze, right? And then it won't burn, right?
Okay.
But no, it turned out it still burned. That one burned. And so like we were saying before, like it's actually not like if you get caught, you're going to go to jail for a while and get a massive fine. So there was a 51
serious act of arson.
Yeah, there was a 51-year-old American tourist named Lawrence Jones and some of his buddies. In 2001, his Swedish friends, they tricked him into thinking that it was legal to do. It was like a game that you could just go do. So he wasn't even like, all right, I'll go burn it down. And so he goes and burns it down, obviously gets caught because he wasn't really trying to be secretive, and 18 days in prison and a $14,700 fine, which I don't know is probably like $20,000 a day or something. But yeah, that was his thanks, buddies. So that one was 2001, the 2001 burning.
I have to say that's a pretty epic prank.
Yeah.
Hey, Lawrence, man, that is totally cool. You can definitely burn down the giant goat.
Yeah. So, I mean, like the officials at town, they totally know this is like a fun game, but they're also, it's only a fun game if there's consequences. So yeah, it's still going. Basically, they're still, punishing people for it, but it is sort of a tourist thing too. So kind of fun. So yeah, they did like 2014. They got even better flame retardant chemicals.
I reckon that Lawrence Jones guy though, like 18 days in prison and a fine, but you're going to get some media attention there. You could probably write a book, go on some talk shows. You could make 14 grand off that.
That's true. That's true if you wanted to, but yeah.
And I don't know, like, aren't these Northern European prisons, they everything I read is like, oh, it's kind of like that dude who killed those 100 people. It's like, yeah, he's recently petitioned so he can get internet. It's like, what?
Yeah.
He killed 100 people. Oh, God. Yeah. I don't know. I know prisons should be about reform and making people better. And I think that the statistics clearly show that this like Northern prison system does work better than like the more brutal prison systems.
Yeah.
But it's still,
because the brutal one's still like, then when they get out, they, just go back to crime. Whereas if you actually reform, but it makes people feel better.
Go back to more serious crime because it's like, oh, what do you go to jail for? I burned down the Yule Goat. Now I'm a member of MS-13.
Yeah.
This didn't work.
But so nowadays there is now a taxi stand that are really like right next to the thing. So they're trying to, they put it there specifically to make it so it's a little more busy. There's
turnover,
people around all the time. Now they also in 2014 they had security guards around the goat and also webcams trained all around to try to catch people if they come. And this actually worked in 2014. The goat survived and was disassembled on, funny enough, December 29th. It's supposed to last through the new year, but they were like, it's made it to December 29th. Let's just take it down before someone burns it. But then it didn't work in 2015. All these same efforts, it was burned on December 27th by an intoxicated man in the 20s, is how the police described this man. And he was actually caught because he was nearby walking away and he smelled of gas. And he also had lighters and newspaper. And also his clothes were partially burned because they had briefly caught fire when he set it ablaze.
This would be so good. Like, I can just imagine, like, the new Ocean's 15 burning down the Gävle Goat or whatever it's called.
Yeah. So 2016 was also kind of a funny one. So it was the 50th anniversary celebration. So they wanted it to last, but it turns out just like shortly after the celebration, someone burned it down. So then, it was the 50th anniversary. So they put up a small replica of it, but then that got destroyed when it was hit by a car. So then they've installed double fencing, cameras, guards, and it did survive in 2017. And today in 2018, it's still standing so far, but maybe by the time this actually published, maybe it won't be.
I don't know. I kind of like that it gets burnt down. It's kind of fun.
Yeah, but it's also kind of fun that it also sometimes survives, because if it always got burned down, it wouldn't be nearly as fun.
I'm just trying to look up if there's anything about this Lawrence Jones character on Google. So I'm like, this would be a great interview. Just tell that story.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, this is amazing. I love this.
Yeah.
I love this whole story. I don't know what it is about people doing like getting drunk and burning things down that is quite so amusing to me, but I don't know.
They should add something like in the town where it's, once it's set ablaze, like it becomes like a thing. Everyone like rush from your houses and go like have a bonfire party or something around it or something, like a tradition.
There should be like an app. So like, the goat burning
It
app.
alerts people that, you just go and then throw a party, like an impromptu, because then it would be even more fun.
It's like a burning goat party. Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
That'd be cool. Also, what's up with them taking, like, it took them a solid 2.5 decades to be like, maybe we should guard this thing.
Yeah, that's true.
What's up with that? Just, I really feel like a couple of guards. I mean, it's big, but it's not like an insurmountable task to have like a 24-hour guard on this thing.
Yeah. Well, but I think I even read on one of them, someone used like a flaming arrow or something like from far away to hit it. So, that's, even your guards aren't going to be able to stop that.
This I like it, just making it more challenging.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, this is one of my favorite stories so far. Well done.
Yeah. Moving on to something a little more common is Auld Lang Syne. So why do we actually sing this on New Year's Eve, and where did the song come from?
This is the song that everyone sings and everyone pretends to know the lyrics to, or at least I pretend to know the lyrics to. So,
or like pretends to understand the lyrics, but not really. So this, everyone says it was written by Robert Burns, but it was not actually. Even you go on the Wikipedia page, it said it was written by Robert Burns. It's like, no,
what?
It's not actually written by Robert Burns.
On Wikipedia.
Well, Wikipedia is usually pretty accurate. But something like really famous like this, like you'd think that one would be correct, but I don't know. Maybe it'll be corrected soon enough. But
didn't you tell me that Wikipedia has like a similar error rate to Britannica or something?
Yeah, it does actually. In their scientific articles, there was a study done by Nature a few years back that kind of showed that it's actually not that far off like Britannica in their scientific articles, and the mistakes are usually pretty minor, similar to Britannica. It's not usually major stuff. So Wikipedia is actually pretty accurate, contrary to popular belief. But I think people assume like Britannica, that's like 100% accurate. It's like, well, no, they actually have mistakes all over the place. There is no source that's 100% accurate. It just doesn't exist. It's not possible.
Except for today, I found out.
Yeah, except for us. But yeah, so Burns himself never actually claimed to have written the song. And he actually, when he submitted it to the Scots Musical Museum, he also included a note stating,
"The following song, an old song of the olden times, and which has never been in print, nor even in manuscript until I took it down from an old man singing, is enough to recommend any air."
Yeah, so he didn't claim to write it at all. And also, even more noteworthy is about 8 decades before Burns' version, there is a known version called Auld Lang Syne by James Watson, and it was extremely similar to Auld Lang Syne. And this is, it is not that James Watson wrote it either. It was just people used to always, like, you'd take a song that was an existing kind of thing that people just sung, and then they would make their own versions of it. And this is so I guess in that sense, he kind of wrote I mean, he composed it like from other lyrics existing to make his own version. But either way, the modern incarnation, it was published in 1788. And this was eventually got included into Thomson's Selected Songs of Scotland in 1799. And that's where it really kind of took off in popularity. So Auld Lang Syne, what does it actually mean? And it turns out it means old long since, or more figuratively, kind of times gone by or times long past. So it's just a song, of course, about remembering old friends and the time you spent with them. So it's quite fitting on New Year's Eve or New Year's Day, whichever, when the clock ticks over. And so this brings us around to how did we actually get this tradition? How did it become? So it turns out around the mid 19th century, so about 60, 70 years or after this version came out, it became just sort of a tradition by Scottish people to sing this, on New Year's or whatever. But that's not how it got spread more widely, or I mean, I guess it is sort of indirectly. So Guy Lombardo and the Royal Canadian Band, who used to be hugely famous on New Year's Eve, New Year's, most people today think of more like Dick Clark and stuff like this, but
I have no idea who any of these people are. But there's a guy called Jules Holland, I think, who does it in the UK, who was like the Jules Holland's New Year's something or other.
Oh, really?
I guess maybe he's
was it like a spin-off? Because Dick Clark was like the rockin' New Year's Eve, I think, or something. He was trying to basically modernize the Guy Lombardo version after, I think after Guy Lombardo died, or I can't remember. It was around somewhere around there. Anyways, that's the point being, Guy Lombardo, Royal Canadian Band, they actually sold over 300 million records in their run, which is pretty crazy, but especially, nowadays most people haven't heard most of the music, I think, at least the people born in the last few decades. So 1929, Guy Lombardo, and he's at the Roosevelt Hotel in New York City on New Year's Eve, and they're performing. It's being broadcast out on the radio, CBS on Eastern and then NBC elsewhere. And so they just decide in the interim, as a transition between the broadcasts, they're gonna just play the Auld Lang Syne. And this, he got the idea basically from Scottish immigrants. He heard that they did this, so he just thought it would be kind of fun to include it. And so that's what they played. And that became a thing every year until 1976, when Lombardo died at the age of 75 in 1977. So he just did it every year. And that's kind of how the tradition of singing it more widely beyond, the Scottish tradition came about.
There you go. Yep. Do you know the lyrics to this? Because I always I feel it's like some of those things that I feel that everyone else knows that I don't know. Like also how to dance the Macarena. No idea how to do that, but it's something that seems programmed into everyone's DNA.
No, that's awful. And you're not missing out on that one.
It's truly awful. Wait, so do you know the lyrics to this thing or not? Or is that just me?
No, I'm looking them up. No, I mean vaguely. I think that's like most people vaguely, just
And also everyone's had several drinks by that point. It's like, I didn't even know the tune, to be fair.
Well, the tune I do know. I at least got that one down, but no.
Well, that was a fun episode. Nice Christmas episode. Is that the main section done? I see on our notes that it says feedback and discussion, and there's nothing there. I had a look at this, and I realized we didn't really have anything to follow up from the last episode. So, or today. Maybe either we're getting better at not opening just random threads all throughout the podcast that you need to follow up, or we're not doing a good enough job of opening random threads all throughout the podcast to follow up.
Yeah, both.
I'm looking up some reviews, by the way. Are you ready for some reviews?
Sure.
I'm going to see if anyone has reviewed us in the great state of Liberia. Do you know anything about Liberia?
No.
No, me neither. They do have an iTunes store. Maybe there's someone listening from Liberia, and now I'm going to feel bad. Our podcast is not listed in the Liberian iTunes store for some reason.
Oh,
no, it is. It's just really... No, we have no reviews or ratings in Liberia. I'm sorry to disappoint. How about Canada?
How about Mom 2 Wyatt says, bless you for saving the poinsettia. I didn't know they could grow into a tree. I'll have to try that this year.
Ooh, that's nice. Where's that one from?
YouTube.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
I've got my poinsettia tree is doing well. It's I repotted it a few months ago, so it's on a new growth trajectory, which is nice. I got some Canadian reviews. You want to have a look at those?
Sure.
Charles Hong says, great podcast to listen to, especially if you're a fan of the TIFO show, to sit down and rewind. After getting corrective eye surgery, I wanted to rest my eyes and not use my phone computer excessively post-surgery, so naturally, podcasts were a good option. I binge listened to every single episode in a couple of days. Love the podcast, keep it up. That's really specific, but I'm glad that this podcast appeals to people who've recently had corrective eye surgery. Maybe
Yeah.
we could get it, into hospitals. It's like, you get that little document like after you've had a procedure or whatever, and it's like, don't eat for 24 hours or like don't chew on this or whatever and don't do this. It'd be like, consider listening to the Brain Food Show.
It's just good fun.
It is good fun. The Catch at You says, good listen, 5 stars. Whoa, Canadians are nice. We have 44,
nice.
44 5-star reviews and 4 4-star reviews and no 3-star, 2-star or 1-star.
At least the British Columbia though, sort of the Vancouver, BC and stuff.
Yeah.
Super nice until they get behind the wheel of a car. I used to live up near there, and they just known for their incredible road rage. And it's such a contrast to the normal super nice nature.
It's where they let it
behind
all
the wheel
out,
of a
right?
car. Yeah,
behind the wheel of a car and fighting in hockey.
and you could totally tell like just who the Canadian drivers were around when they were just driving. Like you could just like be like, yeah, I bet that, and you come up closer and it's like, yep, there's the Canadian plates right there.
Damn it. Catch at You says, good listen, 5-star. The banter is great with a wide variety of topics. The macabre episodes don't really appeal to me, but being a male probably has something to do with it. I would love to hear more about keyboard layouts since I'm a proud Colmac user. Well,
you know how the Tech History Part 3, we put that thing, the soundbite, we were like, we can't do that on YouTube, but then we put the podcast episode on YouTube.
Oh yeah. What did we use?
Samuel Jackson, I think.
In
and
Pulp
then it was
Fiction.
Yeah, and it was it totally was instantly flagged within like a half hour of posting it.
So we don't put adverts on the podcast episodes on YouTube because it gets ridiculous, because there's been like adverts like every 5 minutes because that's what YouTube does. And so now if you're listening to that episode, you're going to have adverts all throughout it, and they're all going to go to Columbia Pictures or whoever made Pulp Fiction, because
I think there was like 3 different companies that have rights to that.
God,
it was like a weird thing. But
it's ridiculous. And that is so... This is kind of super industry specific, but like that is so clearly fair use. We made like an hour-long podcast talking about something, and it's like, here's a clip from a movie, just the audio for a few seconds to illustrate a point in a completely different creative endeavor. And they're like, yeah, we're taking all the money from that. It's like, this is so dumb.
Yeah.
Anyway, should we wrap it up there?
Sounds good.
This has been fun. That goat one, I love it. This is my new episode that I'm going to recommend people go to check out when I tell them I've got a podcast, because who doesn't love to hear about the burning of the Yule goat?
And the random guy taking a crap in a nativity scene for some reason.
Pretty solid. I'm looking forward to receiving
kids beating a log and asking it to poop.
Yeah, it's kind of weird, isn't it? Maybe I'll get my Spanish friend to record us. Maybe he could sing that song for us and we could play it on a future episode. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, pleasure chatting with you as always. And thank you for everyone for listening. Please leave us a review. Mention us on Twitter. Does that do anything? I know nothing. Leave us a review. Say hi on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. Drop us an email, podcast@todayIfoundout.com. Check out our website, brainfood.fm. And
or the forums at forums.todayifoundout.com.
Can people get to that from our I think there's a link on the
from the
website.
Yeah, there is.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, man. Pleasure. Talk to you next week. Big wangers.